Look at this, everyone. It's sunny in Scotland. I know that's sunny. That bit looks a bit miserable, doesn't it? Although I bet that bit there looks just like those nice white fluffy bits over there if you're somewhere else. That probably under those white fluffy clouds. Cool. Anyway, Kurt is 2 years old. In fact, Kurt is just over 2 years old. Kurt is now out of warranty. Yay! Means I can do the service work on it myself without worrying about the warranty. Although yes, I could, you know, take it at any garage, and as long as they use the official parts and blah 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 blah. But you know, never mind. And so yeah, which I did yesterday actually. I gave Kurt a wee service yesterday. Just a nice simple one, just air oil, filters, oil change, spark plug change. So yeah, so Kurt's 2 years old, out of warranty, and has done 17,478 miles. And I thought this would be a good point at which to be having to think about doing a revisitation of life on Kurt, which I did coming up to, I think it was coming up to a year old, or it was like I'd come out of my first winter on him or something. I mentioned four things. One, naked bikes, so the power, you being exposed to the elements, headwinds, like today actually, headwinds slowing you down. That's never going to change because I'm a big bloke and all the rest of it. So no matter whether Kurt's brand new or falling to bits, the headwind isn't going to change a thing. But the exposure to the elements in terms of the mechanics and the electrics, that's something that is worth talking about. So then I talked about the brakes, and I talked about what else did I talk about? Brakes and the gears, the gearbox. So kind of, I thought there were some false neutrally things in there. And then I also mentioned at the end of it that the horn was a bit cheeky. Tractor! Cool, we're good. And so let's start with the easy things. The gearbox, let's go with the gearbox first. The gearbox has presented me with absolutely no issues whatsoever since that video. The amount of those funky little false neutral things is dissipated slightly. You do still get them now and again, but the fact that I'm used to them, you know, kind of, I think I'm more used to looking and a sort of peripheral vision, kind of thinking out of my eye. If the gear indicator, if it feels like you're in a gear, but the gear indicator hasn't shown a gear, then you know something's up. And so it's just, I don't know, I just don't seem to have a problem with them anymore. I don't think I'm getting, maybe I'm just more used to it. Maybe I'm just a little bit more positive in my gear selection action. I don't know. But that certainly hasn't been a problem. If anything, it feels like it's got better. Okay, brakes. Let's talk about the brakes for a bit. So I mentioned that you needed to keep on top of your brakes. So at that point, I really was just in a kind of mode of, fuck it, let's just go straight on. How'd I ever get on here? I really was in some sort of mode of just sort of taking the calipers off, giving them a bit of a clean, trying to push the pistons out as far as I dared, and cleaning them, and sort of putting a little bit of like rubber grease, sort of red rubbery grease stuff on, just to lube them up a little bit, keep them happy, and that made a lot of difference. But it wasn't putting off the inevitable, which is that you're going to get corrosion in the aluminium body of the caliper where the pistons go. That's going to impinge on the caliper, the pistons, and they're just eventually they're going to seize up, and there's nothing you can do about that. Especially when you use your bike all year round in all conditions. I wonder if I can find somewhere to stop and we can actually just have a look at Kurt. Oh, here we go. This will do us. So what I've ended up doing is buying a couple of sets of... Oh, this looks alright. Oh, perfect. Apart from it's gravelly and I might die. Very picture skew. Couldn't have done it better. Right, so. So, here is Kurt. As you can see, pretty goddamn filthy. So what was I talking about? I was talking about the brakes, wasn't I? So what I've done is I've bought a new set of calipers, or second-hand set of calipers, for the front and the back, which allowed me to completely strip them, clean them out, lube up the seals, because they don't come lubed apparently when they're new. And then it meant that what I was able to do, because the calipers that were on, they were like a couple of years old, they were just gubbed, season up every now and again. I used to warp my rear disc, take the temper out of the metal and everything. It was mental. And yeah, it meant I could just swap the calipers over, which is a dead easy job actually, rather than kind of having to take the caliper off, faff about with it, clean it, put it back on, risking contaminating the system a lot more. So it's a very simple job just to whip the caliper off, put a new caliper on, and then it means that my old calipers, I can refurbish them at my leisure, which I can do. Now I could have got that done under warranty, but couldn't be asked, basically. And I thought it'd be much easier just to have a second set of calipers to work on, because I'm going to have to do that eventually. So, now the electrics, that was the other thing I talked about. So there's a wee thing in here. Probably can't see it. That's the coil pack. That goes to the spark plug there. So the plug at the front of that was getting gooked and gunked, which was sort of stalling the bike out. That kind of stayed the course for a while, and then what happened was the coil pack itself got so covered in crap that the coil pack just started failing, shorting out to the engine casing, so that had to be replaced under warranty, luckily. Although they're not actually that expensive, I think they're like 30 quid, so not a huge worry. So that really is kind of it in terms of Life on Kurt Part 2. So I suppose it's like, what new things have I come across since then? And none, really. I seem to go through drive side bearings a bit, so they're dead easy to replace, so don't worry about that. I've got a replacement rear sprocket on, the aluminium one. It's probably going to wear out pretty soon. It's all absolutely filthy. Kurt is a workhorse. He's not some Sunday joyrider thing. Proper workhorse. I've stuck an E-system on it because he won't take a V-system, although you can do things with them like drilling into things to make the V-system work, but I just thought, stuff it, I'll buy an E-system, stick it on, it's more controllable. And to be fair, with the 520 pitch chains on that these things have, which are designed to take a lot more load than the little 125 engine will give them, chain is absolutely bomb-proof now. I mean, I've done like 3,000 miles on it since it was new, and I've taken in the tiniest bit of slack. So yeah. Where the fuck am I? What's around here? Sorry if this is a bit dull. I don't know what to say really. 17,400 and something miles. Though I think that's worth pointing out. I think that's the point of this. I mean, I might be just kind of going, oh, I've done this, I've done that. This is worn out, that's worn out. This is what I've had to change. I've had a problem with my spark plug. But let's just not forget what I'm talking about in the context of all of this. This is a 125 that's done 17,400 and something miles in just about 2 years. There are those out there that slag these off because they're made in India, apparently. Well, they are made in India. How an Indian man with a socket wrench is any less competent than an Austrian man with a socket wrench, I don't know. But, you know, it doesn't seem to make any difference. But people slag them off. They say, oh, they're not very good, they're not very well built. 17,400 miles. And I've had the same sorts of problems with the calipers that anybody would have, given the conditions I've ridden in. Look at the state of the thing. You know, it is filthy, and it still goes. Suspension is fine still. I've obviously covered the rear suspension. I'm happily wearing out my second sprocket. What is there to say? I mean, I think it's absolutely bomber. I change the oil pretty regularly. I do have a little hole in the exhaust actually underneath. I noticed that yesterday when I was taking the little plastic thing underneath off. There's a little bit of blowback on my hand. from the exhaust, but it's alright. It's alright. 17,500 miles, and I've had a couple of problems with it, and that's about it. Let's get the fuck out of here. Oh, haha. I don't know if anybody spotted that either, but you might or might not care or have noticed that there's no L plate on the back of that. And that's because I've got my big boy license. I've got my big boy license and I'm still riding on Kurt. And at this point in time, I don't actually have an itch. I mean, I could, for yes, he's got a lot of miles on it, so probably wouldn't get as much as I could for, or some other people might get for similar aged Duke 125s. But I'd probably get a little bit of money for him. And for that little bit of money, I could probably buy a half reasonable second-hand 600 or 700 or whatever. I have absolutely no desire to do that. Because I think this is a brilliant little bike. It'll definitely go fast enough to kill you, if you, especially when you live in places where you've got tiny roads like this. Sorry, I'm just distracted by just how very pleasant this is all of a sudden. Yeah, anyway. Right, I don't know how long I've waffled on for, so I'm going to shut up and need to think of a joke. So, you know how older people are always going on about there's no place like home? But when you actually put them in one,